Wanjiku Mwangi is pressed flat against a wall on the 42nd floor of a building she was never supposed to enter, with a 6-year-old boy clutched to her chest and her hand cupped gently over his mouth. Not to silence him, the boy hasn't spoken a single word in 4 months. She's muffling his breathing, because the 2 men in dark suits, walking past them right now, 20 feet away, work for the boy's father. And the boy's father thinks Wanjiku stole his son. The service elevator is 18 steps away. She counts them the way she's been counting everything. Since she landed in Seoul 11 months ago, days left on her visa, 1 left in her account, hours until sunrise. But right now, pressed against cold concrete with a child's heartbeat hammering against her ribs, the only number in the world is 18. The men pass, she runs, 18 steps, she hits the button, the elevator doors do not open, behind her footsteps stop, reverse, start coming back. And then the boy opens his mouth. For the first time in 4 months, Guk Seojin makes a sound. Not a scream, not a Korean word, not a cry for his father or his dead mother or any of the people who were supposed to protect him. He whispers 1 word in a language from a country he has never visited, taught to him by a cleaning woman who makes 9,001 an hour and was never, ever supposed to be on this floor. Tao. It means safe in Kikuyu, a language spoken in the central highlands of Kenya, 6,000 miles from Seoul, by people who have absolutely nothing to do with the South Korean underworld. But here's the thing that should keep you right where you are. The question is not why this boy stopped talking 4 months ago. Everybody knows that answer. His mother died. Grief locked his voice and threw away the key. Simple, tragic, case closed. The real question, the one that is about to unravel every lie holding this empire together, is this. Who looked a 6-year-old child in the eyes and told him that if he ever opened his mouth again, his father would be the next one to die? 3 weeks earlier, the 42nd floor does not exist on the building directory. If you ride the elevator in Guk Tower, the buttons go from 41 to 43, like the 42nd floor is a tooth someone pulled and everybody agreed to stop mentioning. Wanjiku's cleaning crew calls it the ghost floor. Off limits, always locked. Cleaned by a separate team that arrives in unmarked vans at hours nobody tracks. In 11 months of midnight shifts, Wanjiku has never once set foot on it. But tonight the authorization system glitches. Green light where there should be red. Madam Jian, the crew chief who has been running this overnight, operation for 19 years and has survived that long by never once asking the wrong question, checks the system twice. Access is green. She looks at Wanjiku. Mop, wipe, leave. Don't touch anything that isn't a surface. Don't look at anything that isn't a floor. You understand me? Wanjiku understands. She understands the way every foreign worker in Seoul understands. Keep your head down. Do the job. Be invisible. Don't make anyone remember your name. Now let me tell you who Wanjiku Mwangi is, because the world is about to try very hard to erase her, and you need to know exactly who it's erasing. She is 28 years old, Kikuyu, born in Nakuru, raised by a mother, who cleaned other people's houses so her daughters could build their own. She has been in Seoul for 11 months. She cleans offices from midnight to 6 in the morning. She sleeps in a Goshiwon room in Gurodong that is smaller than the conference table she is about to walk past. She sends 73% of every paycheck home to her younger sister, Niokabi, who is 2 semesters away from finishing a nursing degree at Egerton University, and Wanjiku will scrub every floor in the city before she lets that tuition go unpaid. She has 63 days left on her work visa. She has no plan for day 64. She has no friends in this country. She has a copper ring on her right pinky that her mother twisted onto her finger the morning she left Nakuru, and she has never taken it off. She hums Kikuyu lullabies when she's afraid and prays in her mother tongue when the world gets too heavy for English or Korean to carry. She is, by every measure that matters to the people who run buildings like this, nobody. And besties, if you want to find out what happens when nobody sits down on a cold marble floor next to a barefoot boy who hasn't spoken in 4 months and decides she's not leaving until morning, then do me this one small thing. Subscribe right now. Like this video. And settle in, because the story is about to take you somewhere you are genuinely, absolutely not prepared for. She steps off the elevator onto the 42nd floor, and the first thing she notices is the cold. Not office building cold. Not the recycled chill of an air-conditioned hallway. This is deliberate cold. Someone turned the system to maximum and walked away. The air bites her arms through her coveralls. Her breath doesn't quite fog, but it's close. One massive conference room, glass walls, a private lounge behind a frosted partition, leather chairs that probably cost more than her annual salary, and no personal items anywhere except one. A child's shoe, small, navy blue, scuffed at the toe, sitting in the dead center of the conference table like someone placed it there as an offering or a warning. Wanjiku stares at it. A shoe does not belong on a conference table in a building like this. A child's shoe does not belong on this floor at all. She should mop, wipe, and leave. Madame John's instructions were not suggestions. Then she hears it, breathing, small breathing, coming from under the table. She crouches, and in the narrow gap between the table legs and the marble floor, curled in on himself like a fist, she finds a boy. 6 years old, maybe younger, barefoot, one sock missing. His face streaked with dried tears and his fingers wrapped so tight around a cream-colored silk scarf that his knuckles have gone pale. The scarf smells like white jasmine, a woman's perfume, a specific woman's perfume. He is asleep, but even in sleep, his body is rigid, shoulders hunched, knees pulled to chest, hands locked. This is not a child resting. This is a child who collapsed from exhaustion in the middle of hiding, and his body did not get the message to stop bracing. Wanjiku should call security. She should radio Madame Joan. She should do any of the 6 correct and reasonable things a contract cleaner is supposed to do when she finds an unattended child on a restricted floor of a building owned by people she has been warned, in very clear terms, never to inconvenience. She does none of them. She takes off her cleaning smock, the navy blue one with the name badge that says W. Mwangi in letters so small you'd have to care to read them. She lays it over the boy like a blanket. She sits down on the marble floor, her back against the table leg, close enough that if he wakes up the first thing he will see is a person, not an empty room. And she starts to hum. It is a Kikuyu lullaby, the one her mother used to sing in the kitchen in Nakuru when the rains came hard and the power went out and the dark felt like it had weight. The melody is simple, 4 notes that circle and repeat like water moving over stone. Wanjiku has not sung the song out loud since she arrived in Seoul because there has been no one to sing it to, and singing it alone felt like admitting how far from home she actually is. But tonight there is a barefoot boy on a cold floor, and the lullaby is the only warm thing she has. She stays. Through the rest of the night, through the hours when the building creaks and settles around them, through the moment at 4 a.m. when the boy shifts in his sleep and his small hand finds the hem of her trouser leg and grips it, unconscious, automatic, the reflex of a child reaching for something solid in the dark. She stays through that, she stays through dawn, and when the morning security team arrives at 6:15 a.m. and finds a Kenyan cleaning woman on a restricted floor with the son of the most feared man in Seoul asleep against her leg, the footage of what happened next reaches a man who has not felt anything in 6 months. Guk Chanyeol watches the security recording 3 times. His people expect an order, terminate her contract, deport her, erase her. That is what happens to people who see things they shouldn't in this building. But on the screen, his son is doing something Chanyeol has not seen him do since his wife died. Seojin is still, not the rigid stillness of terror, not the frozen stillness of a child in hiding. The boy is calm. His grip on the scarf is loose. His shoulders are down. His breathing is even. And the cleaning woman beside him is humming a song in a language Chanyeol doesn't recognize, and she has given the boy her only layer of warmth, and she is still there. At 6 in the morning, on a floor that should have been locked, she is still there. Chanyeol watches the footage a 4th time, then a 5th, then he does something he has never done in 22 years of running an empire built on the principle that no one is irreplaceable. He says, "Bring her to me. Now let me take you back. Not 3 weeks. Farther. Let me take you to the hours before Wanjiku sat down on that marble floor, because you need to understand the world she lived in before a sleeping boy tore a hole through the middle of it. Midnight in Gangnam smells different from midnight anywhere else in Seoul. The rest of the city shuts down in layers, restaurants pulling their gates, convenience store clerks switching to the slow blink of people counting hours until sunrise. But Gangnam at midnight smells like money going to sleep. Leather interiors and imported cologne and the faint chemical sweetness of buildings that get cleaned so thoroughly every night that by morning there is no evidence anyone was ever there. That is the job, erasing the day, making it so the men who run these towers can walk in at 8 in the morning and believe the world starts fresh for them every single time. Wanjiku arrives at Guk Tower at 11:47 p.m., 13 minutes before her shift begins, because Madam John docks pay for every minute past midnight, and Wanjiku cannot afford to lose a single one. The cleaning crew assembles in the loading dock on sub-level 2. 11 women, 1 man, all of them in the same faded navy coveralls with name badges so small they might as well not exist. Nobody talks much during assembly. This is not a job where you make friends. This is a job where you memorize which floors are yours, which floors belong to someone else's crew, and which floors you do not ask about. Wanjiku's floors are 36 through 41, 6 floors of corporate offices that all look the same. Glass desks, ergonomic chairs, the kind of motivational art on the walls that says things like "Innovation begins." Here in fonts designed to make you feel like progress is a product you can purchase. She mops, she empties bins, she wipes surfaces with the specific chemical solution Madame Jian mandates, because the wrong cleaner leaves streaks, and streaks lead to complaints, and complaints lead to replacement, and replacement in this city means a plane ticket you cannot afford back to wherever you came from. Madame Jeon runs the crew like a woman who learned management from the military and softness from absolutely no one. She is 5'3", built like a closed fist, and she has been doing this for 19 years. 19 years in a building owned by people whose names make taxi drivers change the subject. She survived that long by knowing everything and saying nothing, and she expects the same from her crew. Tonight, John pulls Wanjiku aside at 12:20 a.m. System glitch. Access authorization for 42 is showing green. Probably a software error, probably nothing. But the floor needs to be logged as serviced, or the system flags it, and flags mean questions, and questions in this building are worse than dirt. You go up, mop the main room, wipe the surfaces, do not open any drawers, cabinets, or close doors, do not use your phone, do not take photographs. You will be on camera the entire time, and someone will be watching that camera. Do you understand? Wanjiku understands. She has understood since the day she arrived in Seoul. Keep your head down. Do the job. Be the mop, not the person holding it. The elevator to 42 requires a key card and a separate code that John enters with her body blocking the keypad so Wanjiku cannot see the numbers. The doors open. John does not get in. 40 minutes, John says. Then you come back down. If anything on that floor is not a surface, you did not see it. The doors close. Wanjiku rides up alone. And when the elevator opens onto the 42nd floor, the first thing that hits her is the cold. She has cleaned a lot of cold rooms. Office buildings run their air conditioning with the enthusiasm of people who have never paid an electricity bill. But this is different. This cold is deliberate. It has weight to it, intention, the kind of chill that makes you feel like the room wants you to leave. Her arms prickle under the coveralls. Her breath doesn't quite fog, but it tries. One conference room, enormous, glass walls on 3 sides looking out over Gangnam's skyline. A private lounge behind a frosted partition. Chairs that probably cost more than a year of Nyokabi's tuition. Everything polished, sterile, untouched. No coffee cups, no forgotten pens, no evidence that human beings use this space for human things. It is a room designed for decisions that don't leave fingerprints. And in the center of the conference table, sitting like someone placed it there for a reason Wanjiku cannot name, is a child's shoe. Small. Navy blue. Scuffed at the toe in the specific way that shoes get scuffed when a child drags their feet because walking is boring and running is better. It does not belong here. Not in this room, not on this table, not on this floor that doesn't exist on the building directory. It sits there the way a question sits, in a silence. Unanswered. Waiting. Wanjiku stares at it. She should mop, wipe, and leave. She should be the surface, not the woman looking at the surface. Madame Jeon's instructions were not suggestions. They were survival. Then she hears it. Breathing. Small breathing. The kind that comes from a body too little to fill a room with sound. Coming from under the table. She crouches. Slowly. The way her mother taught her to approach startled animals on the road to Nakuru. No sudden movements. Make yourself small before you ask something small to trust you. And there, in the gap between the table legs and the cold marble floor, curled so tight he looks like a knot someone tied and forgot to undo, is a boy. 6 years old. Maybe less, maybe more. It is hard to tell because he is thin in the way that children get thin when eating is something that happens to other people. Barefoot, one sock missing. His face is streaked with dried tears that no one wiped away, and his fingers are wrapped around a cream silk scarf with a white jasmine print, gripping it so hard his small knuckles have gone bloodless. His lips are tinted blue from the cold. His fingernails have scratched shallow grooves into the underside of the table, the marks of a child who clawed himself into this hiding spot and held on. He has been here for hours, alone, on a floor that isn't supposed to exist, in a building that belongs to a man whose name people whisper, on a night so cold the room itself feels like punishment. He is asleep, but even in sleep his body has not unclenched. His shoulders are hiked up around his ears. His knees are locked to his chest. His jaw is tight. This is not rest. This is a child who ran out of the energy to stay afraid and collapsed where he was hiding, and his muscles did not get the message that the crisis was over. Maybe because the crisis is not over. Maybe because for this boy, the crisis has not been over for a very long time. Wanjiku should call security. She should radio John. She should do any of the 6 correct, reasonable, career-preserving things that a contract cleaner making $9,001 an hour is supposed to do when she finds something on a restricted floor that is not a surface. She doesn't. There is a Kikuyu proverb her mother used to say when Wanjiku asked why she always fed the neighbor's children before her own had enough. Mwana tiwa mundu umwe. A child does not belong to one person. A child belongs to the world. And if the world is not watching, then whoever is standing closest has the job. Wanjiku takes off her cleaning smock, the one with the name badge that says W. Mwangi in letters so small you would have to care about her to read them. She lays it over the boy, carefully, the way you lower something precious into place. She sits down on the marble. It is so cold through her trousers that she feels it in her teeth. She positions herself with her back against the table leg, close enough that if he wakes, the first thing he sees will be a person, not an empty room, not another absence, a person. And she hums. The lullaby is older than she is, 4 notes that circle and return, a melody her mother sang in the kitchen in Nakuru when the power went out during the long rains and the darkness pressed against the windows like something with hands. Wanjiku hasn't sung it out loud since she came to Seoul. There has been no one to sing it to, and singing it to herself in her Goshiwon room felt like admitting the distance was real. But tonight there is a boy on a cold floor, and the lullaby is the only warm thing she owns. She hums. He doesn't wake, but something changes. The grip on the scarf loosens, one finger at a time, like a lock releasing. His shoulders drop a 1/4 inch. The tight line of his jaw softens into something that, in the low light, almost looks like peace. For the first time in what Wanjiku will later learn is 4 months, this boy's body believes it is safe enough to stop bracing. She hums until 2 a.m., until 3, until the skyline shifts from black to charcoal to the bruised purple that passes for dawn in a city that never fully commits to darkness. She hums until her voice is a thread, and her back aches from the marble, and the cold has sunk so deep into her bones, she will feel it for days. She stays. At 4:12 a.m., still asleep, the boy shifts. His small hand finds the hem of her trouser leg. His fingers close around it, not a grab, a hold. The unconscious automatic reflex of a child reaching for something solid in the dark. She stays through that too. At 6:15 a.m., the elevator dings. The doors open. 2 men from the morning security team step onto the 42nd floor and find a Kenyan cleaning woman who is not authorized to be here, sitting on the floor with the son of Guk Chanyol asleep against her leg. And 47 stories up, in a penthouse that overlooks the entire city but sees nothing that matters, a man watches the security footage and feels, for the first time in 6 months, something he cannot control. But that is not this chapter's ending. This chapter ends at 2:14 a.m., while Wanjiku is still humming, while the boy is still asleep, while the night is still holding its breath, because at 2:14 a.m., the elevator dings. Someone is coming up to the 42nd floor. Someone who did not glitch their way in. Someone who has the code. Wanjiku is sitting on a restricted floor, unauthorized, with an unknown child, in a building where the wrong kind of attention is the last kind you get, and she has nowhere to hide. The elevator doors open and a man steps out. He is not tall, he is not physically imposing, but he fills the space the way cold fills a room, thoroughly, without needing to announce itself. Dark navy suit, thin black-framed glasses, a face so deliberately unremarkable that you would forget it on purpose, which, Wanjiku will learn later, is exactly the point. He does not look at Wanjiku first, he looks at the boy, and his expression when he sees Seojin under the table is the thing that tells Wanjiku everything she needs to know about this moment, even though she doesn't have the vocabulary for it yet. Because the expression is not surprise, it is not concern, it is not the face of a man discovering a missing child. It is the face of a man who knew exactly where the child was and is irritated that someone else found him first. He walks past Wanjiku like she is furniture, crouches, reaches under the table, and scoops the boy up with the efficiency of someone picking up a dropped briefcase. No gentleness, no adjustment to support the head or the legs. He lifts the child the way you carry an inconvenience from one place to another, and Seojin goes limp in his arms, the way children go limp when they have learned that resistance changes nothing. Then the man straightens and looks at Wanjiku for the first time. His eyes move behind those thin glasses the way a camera lens moves, tracking, focusing, cataloging, deciding how much of a problem she is. You were never on this floor. He says it quietly. No anger, no threat, no inflection at all. Just instruction. If anyone asks, you cleaned 39 and went home. He pauses. Nod if you understand. She nods. Because what else do you do when a man in a suit holds a child like luggage in a building where your name badge is smaller than a postage stamp? You nod. You disappear, you become the mop again. He turns and walks to the elevator, presses the button. The doors open immediately because of course they do. He steps in. The doors begin to close, and in the 3 seconds before they shut, Wanjiku sees something that will keep her awake for the next 72 hours. Seojin's eyes are open. The boy is awake. He has been awake this entire time, through the lifting, through the carrying, through the cold dismissal of the man holding him. He did not move. He did not make a sound. He went limp on purpose, and he is looking at Wanjiku over the man's shoulder with an expression that she will turn over and over in her mind, like a stone she cannot put down. It is not fear. It is not sadness. It is apology. A 6-year-old boy looking at a stranger with the eyes of someone who is sorry for something he cannot say. Sorry she had to see this. Sorry she is involved now. Sorry for the trouble that is coming and that he cannot warn her about because his mouth has been locked shut for 4 months by something worse than grief. The doors close. The boy is gone. Wanjiku sits on the cold floor with her cleaning smock still laid out where he was sleeping, still warm from his body, and she does not move for 11 minutes. She finishes her shift. She cleans floors 36 through 41 with the mechanical precision of a woman whose hands know the job even when her mind is somewhere else entirely. She does not tell anyone what happened. She rides the first subway from Gangnam to Gurodong, walks the 7 minutes to her Goshiwon, locks the door, sits on her bed, and presses her palms flat against her face. The next evening, Madame John finds her in the loading dock before shift. John looks at her the way a woman looks at a crack in a wall she has been monitoring for a long time, deciding whether it is structural or cosmetic. You did something unexpected last night, John says. She does not elaborate on what. You stayed. Wanjiku says nothing. 4 times, John continues. That boy has been found on that floor 4 times in the past 2 months. Every time, the night cleaner who found him called security within 3 minutes. You didn't. You sat down and you stayed for 6 hours. John pulls a cigarette from behind her ear and doesn't light it. She just holds it, rolling it between her fingers, the habit of a woman who quit smoking but never quit needing something in her hands. Why? Wanjiku thinks about this. Because he was cold, she says. John looks at her for a long time. Then she says something that Wanjiku does not understand the weight of until much later. I told them about you. They pay well for information in this building, and I have been paid well for 19 years. I'm telling you this because you should know. There are no secrets on my floors. Not yours. Not anyone's. I reported you the minute I saw the camera feed. She says this without guilt, without apology, the way a woman states the weather. It rains, I inform. These are facts. Then John adds, quieter. But I also told them you stayed. And I told them the boy was calm. And I told them that in 4 incidents and 3 quit nannies and 2 fired therapists, no one has ever made that child's body stop clenching. She puts the unlit cigarette back behind her ear. Someone is going to call you. When they do, go. Don't negotiate. Don't ask questions. Just go. She walks away. And Wanjiku stands in the loading dock realizing that the woman who runs her overnight crew is not just a crew chief. She is a broker. She trades in observations. She survives by selling what she sees. And last night she saw something worth more than a cleaning fee. And now, besties, before we go a single step further, and I need you to hear what comes next because it changed the way I understand this entire story, do me the biggest favor. Like this video. Right now. Tell me in the comments what country you're watching from, because this story is reaching corners of the world I never imagined, and I want to know which corner found you tonight. Because the next thing Wanjiku finds on the 39th floor is going to put ice in your veins. She comes back for her next shift. Business as usual. Floors 36 through 41. Mop, wipe, empty, disappear. The 42nd floor is locked again. Red light, no glitch. The ghost floor returned to its silence. Wanjiku tells herself she imagined the weight of it. She tells herself the boy is someone else's problem. She tells herself that a child on a cold floor is not her responsibility, not in this country, not on this visa, not with 62 days left, and a sister who needs tuition money more than Wanjiku needs to be brave. She almost believes it. Then she reaches the cleaning supply closet on the 39th floor, the one she opens every night. The one with the mop bucket and the chemical containers and the rags organized by color, because Madame John will end your career over a rag in the wrong slot. There is something on the closet door, at exactly Wanjiku's eye level, as if someone measured the distance from the floor to the precise point where her gaze would land when she reached for the handle. There is a handprint, small, a child's, red, not paint. Wanjiku knows what paint feels like, and this is not it. This is thicker, darker, with the particular rust-brown tint that comes from something organic. She touches it before she can stop herself, still tacky, fresh, within the last hour. Her heart is hammering. She should report this. She should call John. She should. Then she sees what is scratched into the metal beneath the handprint, done with something sharp, a nail, a key, the edge of a coin, a number, not 47, which was how many tally marks were in the closet she hasn't seen yet, in a house she hasn't visited, carved by a boy she doesn't know she's about to spend the rest of her life fighting for. One more than yesterday. The boy is counting, and he is leaving the count where Wanjiku will find it, which means he knows who she is. He remembers the night on the floor. He remembers the lullaby, and he is trying to tell her something, in the only language he has left. The call comes at 4 p.m. the next day, while Wanjiku is sitting on her bed in the gashiwan eating cold ramyun from the pot, because dishes cost water and water costs 1. An unknown number. A woman's voice, clipped and professional. A car will arrive at your address in 30 minutes. You have been requested at the Guk residence. Bring identification. Do not bring your phone. The line goes dead. Wanjiku looks at her phone, looks at the cold ramyun, looks at the wall of her room, which is close enough to touch from the bed because that is how small a goshawan is. That is how small your life becomes when you cross an ocean to clean other people's surfaces. She thinks about Madame John saying, "Don't negotiate, don't ask questions, just go." She thinks about 62 days on a visa. She thinks about a boy's handprint in something that was not paint. She goes. The car is a black Hyundai Genesis with tinted windows so dark the back seat is a shadow. The driver is a man in his mid-50s, quiet, forgettable, the kind of face you would walk past in a crowd and never recall. He opens the rear door without greeting her. She gets in. He drives. Seoul passes outside the tinted glass like a city happening to someone else. Gangnam's towers give way to the wide avenues of Hanam, then the climbing roads of Pyeongchang-dong, where the houses stop being houses and start being statements. Gates, walls, the kind of architecture that says we are here and you are not, and that is the point. The Guk estate sits behind a stone wall high enough to lose a basketball over. Iron gate, camera on every post. The driver pulls in and stops in front of a house that is not a house but a compound dressed up to look like one. Traditional Korean bones with modern glass and steel additions. A building that respects its past while making very clear it can afford its future. A woman meets her at the door, by Oksha. 63 years old, 5'1", in a navy house dress with a white apron so pressed it could cut paper. Her face is the kind of face you trust on instinct. Warm lines around the eyes, soft mouth, hands that look like they have spent decades taking care of things. She smells like clean linen and sesame oil, the scent of someone's grandmother, the scent of home in a country that is not Wanjiku's. "You must be tired," Okya says, and the kindness in her voice is so practiced it is almost real. Almost. "Come in. I will explain everything and then I will make you tea," she explains. The boy is Guk Seojin, 6 years old, son of Guk Chanyol, chairman of Guk Maritime Group, which is the name the legitimate world uses and which is not the name the rest of Seoul uses. His mother Yuna died 6 months ago. Since then, the boy has not spoken, not one word. He eats when supervised and stops the moment no one is watching. He does not attend school. He does not play. He has a therapist he does not speak to, and an aunt who lives in the guest wing and tries to reach him and fails and cries about it in the bathroom when she thinks no one can hear. 3 nannies have been hired. 3 have quit. The first lasted 2 weeks before she found Seojin standing in the garden at 3 a.m. in his pajamas, barefoot, staring at nothing. She said the boy was possessed. She did not come back. The second lasted 4 days before the boy opened every lock in the house, climbed the perimeter wall, and walked 3 kilometers in the dark to the base of Guk Tower. She resigned by text. The third lasted 1 night. Okya does not say what happened that night. She only says the woman left before dawn and refused the severance pay, which tells you more than any explanation could. "No one can keep him in this house," Okya says. "No one can reach him. We have tried everything." She looks at Wanjiku the way a person looks at an unlikely solution they are not fully convinced by, but have run out of alternatives to reject. The security footage from the 42nd floor, Okya continues. The chairman watched it. Many times. On the recording, the boy was calm, asleep without nightmares. For the first time in months, he was not fighting. She pauses. "He was calm near you. We do not know why. But the chairman has requested that you stay. The job is overnight, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. She will have a room on the 1st floor near the boy's bedroom. She can clean if she wants." Okya says this with faint distaste, as if cleaning is a habit she hopes Wanjiku will outgrow. But her real job is presence. Stay in the house. Make sure the boy stays in the house. If he wakes, be there. If he runs, follow him. The pay is 4 times what Wanjiku makes at the tower. The words hit her like a door opening onto a room she didn't know existed. 4 times. That is Nyokabi's tuition paid in 3 months. That is day 64 with a plan. That is a future. She meets Seojin in the living room. He is sitting on the floor near the window, the cream scarf wrapped around his left hand, his body arranged in the precise stillness of a child who has learned that being noticed is dangerous. He does not look up when she enters. He does not acknowledge her. Okja hovers behind Wanjiku with the energy of a woman presenting a solution she is already prepared to apologize for. Wanjiku does not crouch down to the boy's level the way adults do when they want children to trust them, that performance of equality that children see through instantly. She just stands, waits, and after a moment, because the silence has room in it, she hums. 3 notes. The Kikuyu lullaby. Just the opening, the 4-note phrase that circles like water. Seojin's shoulders drop, his fingers loosen on the scarf. He doesn't look at her, but he shifts his weight, leans slightly in her direction, sits down again, 2 feet closer than where he was. Behind Wanjiku, Okja makes a small sound. Wanjiku doesn't turn around, but she hears it. A sharp intake of breath. The sound of a woman seeing something she has been waiting 6 months to see and is now, maybe, afraid of. Then the aunt appears. Oh, Dussel. She comes from the guest wing, moving through the hallway with the contained energy of a woman who heard something happening and arrived too fast to pretend she wasn't listening. She is beautiful in the way that grief makes people beautiful when it sharpens them instead of softening, high cheekbones going sharper as she loses weight, eyes that look like they're permanently about to overflow. She wears a jade pendant at her throat that she touches the way some people touch a wound, checking if it still hurts. "You must be Wanjiku," Dasul says, and her smile is warm and wrong. Not wrong as in fake, wrong as in trying too hard. A smile that has been practiced in a mirror by a woman who is desperate for the person receiving it to believe her. Where are you from? How long have you been in Seoul? Do you have family back home? The questions come rapid and rehearsed. Each one feels like a door being opened and checked before moving to the next. Wanjiku answers carefully, Kenya, 11 months, a sister. She gives the outline and withholds the interior because there is something in Dasil's eyes that is searching for a specific answer, and Wanjiku does not yet know what the question really is. That night, Wanjiku sits in her small room on the first floor and watches the nursery monitor. The screen is grainy, green-tinted, the night vision footage making Seojin's room look like the bottom of a lake. The boy is in bed, eyes closed, still. At 1:47 a.m., he moves. It is not the thrashing of a nightmare. There is no crying, no shouting, no distress that you could point to and say that is the problem. He gets out of bed with the mechanical precision of a body following a program, steps to the closet, opens the door, crawls inside, and curls into a position so specific it is almost architectural, knees to chest, hands clamped flat over both ears, pressing hard, face turned into the corner, his body a tight parenthesis, closing itself around something the rest of the world is not allowed to hear. He holds this for 43 minutes, not 42, not 44, 43. Then he unfolds, returns to bed, closes his eyes, sleeps. It is choreography, rehearsal. A child performing a memory on a stage that no one is watching, except now someone is. Wanjiku is watching, and what she sees on that monitor is not a boy having nightmares. It is a boy practicing. The next morning, while Seojin is with Dasil in the kitchen eating rice porridge one slow spoonful at a time, Wanjiku goes to the closet. She opens the door. She crouches in the corner where the boy curled himself last night, and she looks, scratched into the wood of the back wall, with something sharp, a fingernail or the edge of a button, or the desperate precision of a child who has no other tools, are tally marks, 47 of them, arranged in groups of 5, the way you count in prison, the way you count when counting is all you have. And last night on the monitor, in the green-tinted silence of a room that smells like white jasmine and absinthe, she heard him whispering, not words, a rhythm, a pattern, a count, backward, from 47. Wanjiku closes the closet door. She stands in the hallway of a dead woman's house, in a country that is not hers, 62 days from statelessness, and she understands 2 things with the clarity of someone who has just stepped off a ledge. The first is that this boy is not grieving. He is recording. The second is that whatever he is recording, someone in this house does not want him to finish counting. Here is what Wanjiku learns over the next 5 nights, mapped on the back of her cleaning crew schedule in handwriting so small she has to squint to read her own notes. Night 1, the closet. Knees to chest, hands over ears, face in the corner. 43 minutes. Tally mark, 48. Night 2, the dining room. Under the table, same position, same posture, 39 minutes. He scratches the new count into the underside of the table with his thumbnail. Night 3, the living room. Behind the floor-length curtains near the south-facing windows. Same position, 41 minutes. Count, 50. Night 4, the laundry room. Inside the industrial hamper between the sheets. Same position, 37 minutes. Night 5, the master bathroom. Yuna's bathroom. Untouched since her death, the vanity still crowded with her products, the air still carrying the ghost of white jasmine 6 months after the last bottle was opened. Seojin curls under the vanity in the same position, same hands. Same ears, same face in the corner, 29 minutes, the shortest yet. Same position, every time. Different locations, but the body is identical. Knees locked to chest, hands flat over ears, pressing, as if the sound he is trying to block is inside his own skull. Face turned away, always between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m., always alone, always silent, always mechanical. He is not hiding from something. He is hiding like something, like someone who hid once, in one specific way, in one specific place, during one specific event, and whose body has been returning to that shape every night since, because the event is not over for him. It will never be over until someone sees the shape and understands what it means. Wanjiku calls Nyokabi at 6 a.m. Seoul time, which is midnight in Nakuru. She doesn't explain the situation. She doesn't say she is living in the house of a man whose name makes Seoul taxi drivers change lanes. She says, "Nyokabi, I need Mama's prayer. The one she used to say over the karaoke children after the fire. The one for children who have seen things." Nyokabi is quiet for a moment. Then she says in Kikuyu, "Are you safe?" "I am fine. I just need the prayer." Nyokabi doesn't ask again. She sends a voice note 10 minutes later. Their mother's voice recorded before she died, reciting the prayer in Kikuyu with the specific cadence that Wanjiku remembers from childhood. It is a prayer for eyes that have seen too much, for ears that have heard what children should not hear, for small bodies that carry memories too heavy for their bones. Wanjiku plays it softly during Seojin's hiding episodes, her phone speaker turned to the lowest volume, the Kikuyu words filling the corners of whatever room he has chosen. He doesn't stop hiding, but the 43 minutes become 37, then 31, then 26. The language he doesn't understand is doing something that the language he does cannot. On the 6th night, Chanyul appears. Wanjiku is sitting in the living room with Seojin. They are doing nothing together, which is the thing Wanjiku has learned matters most. Not reading to him, not playing with him, not performing engagement the way the previous nannies probably did before they broke. Just existing in the same room, breathing the same air, letting the boy decide the distance. Tonight the distance is 4 feet. 3 nights ago it was 7. Progress is measured in inches, and Wanjiku has the patience for it, because patience is the only currency she has ever been rich in. Chanyul enters the room the way weather enters a room. The air changes, the temperature shifts. He is wearing a suit that no longer fits properly across the shoulders, because he has lost weight in the way men lose weight when eating becomes another task they cannot delegate to someone else. His face is the face of a man who has been awake for a very long time and has confused exhaustion with control. He doesn't see Wanjiku. Not because she is hiding, but because she is staff, and staff are surfaces, and surfaces are invisible. He goes straight to Seojin. He kneels. He reaches for his son's face, with a hand that Wanjiku can see is trembling, just barely. The vibration of a man trying to perform steadiness and failing at the molecular level. "Appa is here," he says. "Seojin, Appa is right here." Seojin flinches. Hard. The kind of full-body recoil that is not choice but reflex. The wiring of a child whose nervous system has reclassified touch as threat. He flinches so violently that his arm catches the glass on the side table, sends it off the edge, and it shatters on the hardwood floor with a sound like a small, sharp word. Nobody moves. The glass is in pieces. The water is spreading. Seojin is on the floor, pressed against the base of the couch, hands over his ears, face turned away. The hiding position. The exact same one. Triggered by his father's hand. Chanyul stands. He looks at the broken glass. He looks at his son on the floor. He looks at the water pooling around his expensive shoes. And there is a moment, a fraction of a breath, where his face does something it is clearly not supposed to do in front of other people. It opens, the mask slips, and underneath is not anger, not frustration, not the cold pragmatism of a man who runs an empire. Underneath is a man who just reached for his child, and his child recoiled like he'd been struck. He turns, walks out. His footsteps are steady because he will die before he lets them falter where someone can hear. But through the wall, from the hallway, Wanjiku hears a sound. Not a word, not a cry. A sound that belongs to structures, not people. The sound of something load-bearing cracking in a place no one can see. She cleans up the glass. She checks Seojin's hands for cuts. None. She sits back down, 4 feet away. She does not touch him. She hums. After 7 minutes, his hands come down from his ears. After 12, his shoulders drop. After 20, he unfolds from the hiding position and sits upright, watching the space where his father was standing, with the expression of a child who wants something so badly that wanting it has become indistinguishable from grief. The next morning, Okja finds Wanjiku in the kitchen. Okja is folding laundry with the methodical precision of a woman who has made an art of looking busy while delivering information. She tells Wanjiku, casually, between pillowcases, that Yuna did not die in a car accident. The public knows a different story, Okya says. Something about a private car and an intersection and a truck. But that is for the newspapers. She folds a sheet with a crease so sharp it looks structural. In this house, we know the truth. She died in the study, on the second floor. The police said she jumped from the window. Okya's face when she says this is sad and practiced and perfect. Grief worn so smoothly it could be mistaken for the real thing, and maybe it is the real thing, and maybe that is what makes it so convincing. The boy was in the house, Okja adds, when it happened. Asleep, they think. He was supposed to be asleep. Wanjiku absorbs this the way she absorbs everything in this house. Silently. Completely. Filing it in the part of her mind that is building a map she doesn't yet know how to read. That night she goes to the study. Second floor. The door is unlocked because nobody enters this room anymore. The air inside is stale and still, a sealed chamber of dust and daylight preserved in amber. Bookshelves, a desk, a window, and floor-length curtains near the window, heavy silk, the color of deep green water. Wanjiku walks the room. She touches nothing. She looks, and then she looks for the hiding spots, because if Seojin hides in every room in this house, he must hide in this one too. And if he hides in this one, then his position in this room will tell her something. His positions in other rooms don't. She finds it. Behind the curtain, the one nearest the window. There is a gap between the curtain and the wall, narrow, just wide enough for a small child to wedge himself into. She crouches there, fits herself into the space the way a boy's body would fit. And from that position, pressed against the wall with the heavy curtain shielding her from the rest of the room, she has a direct, unobstructed line of sight to the study door. Not the window, the door. If a child was hiding here on the night his mother was supposed to have jumped from that window, that child was not watching the window. That child was watching the door. The floor beneath the curtain is hardwood, old, dark, polished, but there is a section near the desk, maybe 3 feet by 2, where the wood is a slightly different shade, lighter. The difference is subtle enough that you'd miss it if you weren't looking from this specific angle, from this specific hiding spot, with the light falling at this specific hour. But Wanjiku spent 11 months cleaning surfaces for a living, and she knows what a floor looks like when something has been scrubbed out of it. Something that's soaked into the grain. Something organic. She is crouching there, her mind running calculations she doesn't want to finish, when she feels him. Seojin. He appeared without a sound. He is beside her, wedged into the same gap, folded into the same position, knees to chest, hands over ears, face in the corner, but not the corner. He is facing the same direction she is facing, toward the door. He reaches for her hand. She gives it. His fingers are ice cold and his grip is absolute. They crouch together behind the curtain of the room where his mother died, and he stares at the study door with the unwavering focus of a child who has been watching that door in his memory every single night for 148 nights. He is not watching the window. He has never been watching the window. He has been watching the door because the door is where it came from. Whatever happened in this room, it did not start with a woman and a window. It started with the door opening. They sit in silence. A Kenyan cleaning woman and a mute Korean boy, shoulder to shoulder behind a dead woman's curtain, looking at a door that holds a secret only one of them can name. Then Seojin does something new. He lifts his free hand, reaches up, touches Wanjiku's ear with his fingertip, gentle, deliberate. Then he touches his own ear. Then he covers both his ears with his palms, pressing hard, the same gesture from every hiding position, every night. Every reenactment. It is a sequence. Ear, ear, cover. He does it again. Ear, ear, cover. A message. Not random, not a tick. A message from a boy who cannot speak, delivered in the only language his body has left. Wanjiku does not understand it yet, but she will. Because the boy is not just showing her what he saw that night behind the curtain, he is telling her what he heard. And what he heard is the reason he stopped talking. And the reason he stopped talking is the reason someone in this house needs him to never start again. Wanjiku sits at the kitchen table at 3 a.m. with a pen and the back of a grocery receipt, and she does the math. The hiding position faces the door. Every night, every room, every reenactment. Knees to chest, hands over ears, face angled toward the point of entry. Not the window, never the window. If Yuna jumped, if the official story is true, if a woman walked to a window and chose to leave the world through it, then a child hiding in the room would have been watching the window, would have been facing the horror, would have been locked onto the thing that took his mother. But Seojin's body doesn't face windows. It faces doors. Someone came through the study door that night. Someone the boy saw. Someone whose arrival was the event, not the window, not the fall, not the official police report that closed in 4 days. The door opening is where the nightmare starts, and the recording his body makes every night between 1 and 3 a.m., and the hands over the ears means what came after the door was something he heard. Yuna did not jump. Wanjiku puts the pen down. She looks at the receipt. She has written 5 words in Kikuyu, because even alone in this kitchen she is afraid to think in a language someone in this house might understand. The 5 words translate roughly to, the door, not the window. She tears the receipt into pieces and puts the pieces in her mouth and chews and swallows. She learned this from her mother, who learned it from her grandmother, who lived through a time when written words in the wrong hands could end your family. Some survival skills skip generations, some don't need to. In the morning, she teaches Seojin to make chai, not Korean tea, not the barley or corn tea that Oksha brews in the big steel pot and leaves on the counter for the household. Kenyan chai, the real thing, the kind Wanjiku's mother made in the kitchen in Nakuru with milk that came from the neighbor's cow and spices that came from the Indian dukkha on Kenyatta Avenue, and love that came from a place deeper than a recipe. She sets up the counter with small bowls, cardamom pods, split open so the black seeds are visible, fresh ginger, peeled and sliced thin, cinnamon bark, not powder, because powder is for people who don't have time, and Wanjiku is teaching this boy that some things are worth the time. Cloves, whole, smelling like a memory of warmth. She gives Seojin a small silver measuring spoon, a 1/4 teaspoon. She shows him, this much cardamom. He watches her hands. She does it again, this much. He takes the spoon. His grip is tight, too tight, the grip of a child who holds everything like it might be taken. But his hand is steady. He measures. He gets it right. Muguthi, she says, pointing at the spoon. That is Kikuyu for spoon. Muguthi. He looks at her, does not speak, but his lips move. Muguthi, shaping the word without releasing it, storing it somewhere behind the silence. Mukombe, she says, pointing at the cup. Mukombe. His lips move again, filing, cataloging, building a vocabulary in a language that belongs to a country 6,000 miles away, a language that nobody in this house speaks, a language that is becoming, cup by spoon by morning, a private channel between a Kenyan woman and a Korean boy that the rest of the world cannot intercept. And one word that is not about kitchen things. Thahu, Wanjiku says. She says it when she enters his room. Says it when she sits beside him on the floor. Says it when she lays the cleaning smock over him at night. The one with her name badge. The one that still smells faintly of pine and the 42nd floor. The one he has claimed as his blanket and will not let anyone wash. Thahu, safe. He mouths it, every time. A silent repetition, lips pressing the word into shape without breath, like a prayer you practice before you're ready to say it out loud. The days develop a rhythm. Mornings, chai. Afternoons, Seojin stays with Docile while Wanjiku sleeps. Evenings, Wanjiku returns and the boy repositions himself, always closer. 7 feet becomes 5, 5 becomes 3. 3 becomes the distance at which she can feel his body heat, which is the distance at which trust lives, close enough to touch and choosing not to, letting the child decide when touch is safe. Docile is everywhere. She brings Wanjiku japchae in a ceramic bowl, the glass noodles glistening with sesame oil. She brings hobak juk, the sweet pumpkin porridge, in a thermos with a note that says, for cold nights. She asks about Kenya, about Nakuru, about Nyokabi, about the food, the weather, the customs. Each question is warm and specific and lands just slightly off-center, the way questions land when someone is looking for a particular answer and hasn't found it yet. But when Wanjiku steers the conversation toward Seojin's hiding, toward the pattern, toward the nightly ritual, Docile redirects. Every time, the pivot is surgical. He is grieving, Docile says, rearranging flowers that don't need rearranging, Children process loss in unpredictable ways. The last therapist said it could take years. The last therapist, Wanjiku learns, was canceled 3 weeks ago. The one before that, 5 weeks ago. The one before that, 2 months. Different excuses each time. The therapist wasn't the right fit. Seojin had a bad day and shouldn't be pushed. A scheduling conflict. Each excuse is reasonable on its own. Together they form a wall. Someone is keeping this boy away from anyone trained to help him communicate. Wanjiku does not know who, not yet. But she knows the shape of the wall, and shapes tell you things about builders. She tells Okja, not everything. Not the theory, not the math, not the 5 Kikuyu words she chewed and swallowed. Just the direction. She tells Okja that Seojin's hiding position faces the door, not the window. She says it simply, without interpretation, the way you lay a card on a table and watch the other player's face. Okja's face goes white, not slowly, not by degrees. The blood leaves her skin in a single wave, the way color leaves a wall when you rip a painting off it. She grabs Wanjiku's wrist. Both hands. Her grip is stronger than a 63-year-old woman's grip should be, the grip of someone who has been carrying heavy things for a very long time. Her Buddhist bead bracelet presses cold against Wanjiku's skin. Stop, Okja says. Her voice is low and it is shaking. Whatever you think you understand, you are wrong. And if you are right, you are in danger in a way I cannot explain to you right now. Do not say these things, not in this house, not to me, not to anyone. Do you understand? Not to anyone. Her face is saying one thing, her trembling hands are saying another. The words say, stop. The trembling says, I already know. Wanjiku looks at the old woman's hands wrapped around her wrist. She thinks about her mother, who cleaned other people's houses and never once confused the dirt on her knees with the dirt on her conscience. She thinks about the Kikuyu proverb, Mundu mukuru ni akuaga akime nyaga kiria akuagira. An old person dies knowing what killed them. Okja knows. She has known for 6 months. And the thing she knows is not a guess. It is a weight, and the weight is visible in the way her hands are shaking because hands do not lie the way mouths do. Wanjiku pulls her wrist free, gently, the way you remove yourself from something you might need to come back to. Besties, I need you to pause right here. Just pause. If your heart did something in the last 30 seconds, if you are gripping your phone a little tighter than you were 60 seconds ago, do me this one thing. Hit like. Drop a comment and tell me who you think walked through that study door the night Yuna died, because the answer is coming, and it is not who you think. It is not even close to who you think, and it is going to take this story apart and rebuild it into something that will not let you sleep tonight. Moon Gyuho does not make large moves. He makes small adjustments. The way you tighten a net, one knot at a time, so the fish doesn't feel the water getting smaller until there is nowhere left to swim. Wanjiku notices the adjustments the way she notices everything quietly from the edges, the way a woman who has spent her life being invisible notices things that people in the center of the room don't bother to see. Her schedule changes, subtle. A Tuesday overnight shift gets replaced with a Thursday daytime rotation, which sounds reasonable until she realizes that the Tuesdays she is losing are the nights Docile has private meetings in the guest wing. The meetings that Seojin has been tracking with his ears uncovered, listening, his small body positioned as an antenna aimed at his aunt's corridor. Someone is keeping Wanjiku away from the estate on the nights that matter. Someone who controls schedules, someone who controls access. She cannot prove this. But the pattern is there, the same way Seojin's hiding pattern is there, visible only to a person who is paying attention and has nothing to gain from looking away. Then Madame Jian appears at the estate. She comes through the service entrance carrying a box of cleaning supplies that nobody ordered, wearing her faded navy coveralls and her red lanyard, and the expression of a woman who has been building toward a decision for 8 years, and finally, at 10:30 on a Wednesday morning, arrived at it. She finds Wanjiku in the laundry corridor. She doesn't waste time. I need you to know something, Jian says. Her voice is flat, not emotional, not dramatic. The voice of a woman reading a receipt. The night that woman died, the building logged 4 access cards on the 42nd floor between 9 p.m. and midnight. The police report listed 2. I have the original access log from the building system before it was edited. She reaches into the box of supplies and pulls out a folded piece of paper, hands it to Wanjiku. I have been keeping copies of things in this building for 19 years. Because I am not a brave woman, but I am a thorough one. Wanjiku takes the paper, does not open it, looks at John's face. John continues, I sold information about you to Gyuho's office the night you found the boy. I've been selling information for 8 years. Names, access patterns, anomalies, anything that happened on my floors that might interest the people who sign the checks. I am telling you this because you should know who I am and what I have done. She pauses, and because I am done, because I watched you sit on a cold floor for 6 hours with a child you didn't know, and I have been standing in warm rooms for 19 years and doing nothing. She stops again, and this time the flatness cracks, just for a moment, just enough for the shame to show through. I am not a good woman, but I am not finished either. She adjusts her lanyard, turns, walks back through the service entrance. The box of supplies stays behind, because it was never about the supplies. Wanjiku opens the paper that night. 4 access cards. 9:47 p.m., 10:12 p.m., 10:31 p.m., 11:08 p.m. She does not recognize the card numbers, but there are 4, and the police were told 2, and the difference between 2 and 4 is the distance between a suicide and something else entirely. At 2 a.m., Wanjiku is summoned, not by Okja, by the house phone, the one connected directly to Chanyeol's private office, the one that has never rung in the 11 days she has been here. She walks through the dark house, past Seojin's door, closed, the monitor light blinking green, past the study, always closed, up the stairs to the second-floor office where Guk Chanyeol sits behind a desk that is too large for the room and a glass that is too empty for the hour. He is not drunk. That is important. A man like Chanyeol does not lose control. He merely opens the valve slightly, lets enough pressure escape to keep functioning, and closes it again. But the bottle is open, and the room smells like expensive whiskey and something older than alcohol. Grief has a smell. It smells like rooms where people sit alone at 2 a.m., not because they want to, but because sleep requires a kind of surrender they have forgotten how to perform. Why does my son come to you? He asks. No greeting, no preamble, just the question, laid on the desk between them like a document requiring signature. Wanjiku tells him about the chai, about the measuring spoons, the cardamom, the cinnamon. She tells him that Seojin's hands are steadiest when they are given a task with a beginning and a middle and an end. Because tasks have structure, and structure is what you hold on to when everything else has been pulled away. She tells him about the Kikuyu lullaby and the prayer her mother used to say over children who had seen things. She does not tell him about the hiding pattern. She does not tell him about the door. Not yet. Because she does not yet know who in this house she can trust with that information, and telling the wrong person is the same as telling the person who walked through that door. He is not broken, Wanjiku says. She says this looking directly at Chanyeol, which is not something people do in this house, looking directly at this man, because direct eye contact with Guk Chanyeol is an act that most people's survival instincts classify as a mistake. Your son is not broken. He is holding something heavy, and he does not know who is safe enough to give it to. Chanyeol looks at her for a long time, the kind of long time that has weather in it, pressure systems shifting behind his eyes, a man deciding how much of what she said he is willing to receive. I will sponsor your visa extension, he says. You stay. The words hit like a key turning in a lock. A visa extension means time. Time means Nyokabi's tuition secured. Time means day 64 with a plan. Time means she doesn't disappear back to Nakuru in 8 weeks with nothing to show for 11 months of cold floors and invisible labor. But then Chanyeol says, the paperwork will go through my corporate office, through Gyuho. He says this like it is an administrative detail. The name Gyuho passes through his mouth the way you mention a department, not a person. He does not see what Wanjiku cannot yet see either, that the lifeline he is extending passes through the hands of the man who needs her gone. The conversation ends. Wanjiku stands to leave, and then the door opens. Seojin is standing in the doorway, pajamas, bare feet, the scarf wrapped around his left hand. He is 2 a.m. awake. The particular alertness of a child who navigates this house at night better than the adults who built it. He does not look at his father. He walks to Wanjiku, reaches into the pocket of her apron, the deep pocket where she keeps the measuring spoon from their chai sessions, and pulls it out. The small silver quarter teaspoon, warm from being against her body all day. He turns to Chanyol, and he holds the spoon out to his father. It is the first time in 4 months that Guk Seojin has voluntarily initiated contact with his father. Not with a word, not with a gesture anyone else in the room would understand. With a measuring spoon, a quarter teaspoon of cardamom, the tool Wanjiku uses when she gives him a task with a beginning and a middle and an end. The translation, if Chanyol understood it, would be, "This woman measures things for me. She gives me things I can hold. She is the reason I come out of the closet 4 minutes faster than I did last week. Trust her." Chanyol looks at the spoon, looks at his son, looks at Wanjiku. His hand closes around the small silver thing, and he holds it the way you hold something that weighs more than it should, more than a spoon should weigh, more than a single moment between a father and a son should be able to carry. But it carries it. Somehow, it holds. Seojin leaves without looking back. Wanjiku follows. Chanyol sits alone with a measuring spoon and a glass of whiskey, and for the first time in 6 months, the glass is the less important object in his hand. That night, Seojin's hiding changes. 1:52 a.m. He gets out of bed, but he does not go to a closet or a corner or the underside of a table. He walks to Wanjiku's room, opens the door without knocking, crosses the floor, and sits down on the carpet with his back pressed against hers, hands over ears, knees to chest, face aimed at the corridor that leads to the guest wing, Dassel's wing. But here is the thing that turns the temperature of this story by 40 degrees. His hands come down, slowly, one finger at a time, the way the scarf grip loosened on the 42nd floor. He uncovers his ears. For the first time in the 51 nights since his mother died and he started this ritual, his ears are open. He is not blocking sound. He is listening. His body has shifted from defense to surveillance, from hiding to hunting. And from Dassel's corridor, in the 2 a.m. silence of a house where secrets move through the walls like water through old pipes, Wanjiku hears what Seojin hears. A voice. Low, male, speaking quietly in Korean, the words indistinct but the register unmistakable. Not Chanyol's voice, not a staff member's, not the television. Someone is in Dassel's room at 2 a.m. having a conversation that nobody in this house is supposed to hear, except a 6-year-old boy with uncovered ears and a cleaning woman with nothing to lose. Wanjiku counts backward. 52 tally marks now, one scratched each night with the same blunt precision, into closet walls and table undersides, and the back of the headboard where no one thinks to look. She maps the count against the calendar, working backward from tonight through the weeks, and the math lands on a specific date. Day 1, the first tally mark. The day after Yuna's funeral. The day Odassel moved into the Guk estate. The boy has been counting the days since his aunt arrived. Not the days since his mother died. The days since Dassel walked through the front door with 2 suitcases and a grief so polished it could be displayed in a case. 52 nights of scratching and hiding and counting backward like a prisoner marking time, waiting for someone to notice the accumulation. Wanjiku sits with this knowledge at 4 a.m. in the kitchen, drinking chai she made for herself because sleep is no longer something her body is willing to do in this house. The chai is too strong. She drinks it anyway. In Nakuru, her mother used to say that strong tea tells the truth your mouth is afraid to. Wanjiku's mouth is afraid of a lot right now. Gyuho tightens. She feels it the way you feel a room getting smaller before you see the walls moving. Her schedule shifts again. Another overnight removed, a daytime slot added. Her access badge stops working on the 2nd floor, where the study is, and when she asks Okja about it, Okja says it must be a system error and does not look at her when she says it. Her phone notifications start arriving late, texts from Nyokabi showing up 2 and 3 minutes after they're sent, the specific delay of messages being routed through a monitoring system before reaching her screen. She confirms the monitoring on a Wednesday. She sends Nyokabi a text in English. Seojin had another restless night. I am exhausted, but he is getting better. Normal message. Unremarkable. The next morning, Dassel appears in the kitchen, pours herself coffee, turns to Wanjiku with a face full of warm concern and says, almost word for word, I hear Seojin had a restless night. You must be exhausted. Wanjiku smiles. Thanks, Dassel, for the concern. Goes to her room, sits on the bed. Someone is reading her messages. Someone relayed the content to Dassel, or Dassel is reading them herself, or Dassel is being fed information by the same person who controls access and schedules and the speed at which texts reach Wanjiku's phone. The net is tightening, and Wanjiku is the fish, and the water is getting very, very small. She switches to Kikuyu. Every text in Yokabi, every phone call, every conversation that matters goes through her mother tongue. She speaks Kikuyu to Seojin during their overnight hours, the lilting cadence of a language built on 7 vowels and a musicality that Korean ears cannot parse. She sings him Kikuyu songs that are not lullabies but prayers, the ones her mother sang over the karaoke children after the fire, the ones that ask God to make the memory lighter without making it disappear, because disappearing a memory is the same as saying it didn't happen, and what happened to those children happened, and what happened to Seojin happened, and the only honest thing to do with a true memory is to make it survivable, and something extraordinary begins, Seojin responds, not with Korean, not with speech, with action that is tied to specific Kikuyu words, as if each word is a command his body understands even though his conscious mind has not agreed to participate. She says the who. Safe. He comes out of hiding 11 seconds faster than the night before. She says ugu, which means here, come here, this place. He moves toward her, closing the distance from 5 feet to 3. She says tiga, stop, wait, be still. He freezes. Instantly, the reflex of a child who has learned to trust a sound. He is building a vocabulary in a language no one in this house can decode. A Kikuyu-speaking Korean boy. A 6-year-old cryptographer who is constructing an entire communication channel in a tongue that renders him invisible to surveillance because the people surveilling him are listening for Korean, for English, for anything they can understand. And Kikuyu is none of those things. The beauty of it is devastating. The danger of it is worse. Because if someone realizes that the mute boy is not mute at all, that he is simply speaking in a language they cannot hear, then the solution is not to listen harder. The solution is to remove the teacher. Night 53, 4 a.m. Wanjiku is awake in her room, running calculations that lead nowhere good when her door opens. It is Okya. She is trembling. Not the small tremor from before, the one in her hands that she hides by clasping them in her lap. This is full body. She looks like a woman standing in an earthquake only she can feel. She sits on the edge of Wanjiku's bed without being invited, and she starts talking before Wanjiku can speak, because if she stops, she will lose the momentum that brought her here. Yuna found it, Okja says. 7 years. 7 years of money being moved through the shipping company. Shell companies in Singapore and the Philippines. Hundreds of millions of won skimmed and laundered so carefully that no internal audit caught it. But Yuna caught it. Because Yuna was not an auditor, she was a wife who paid attention, and wives who pay attention see patterns that accountants miss because accountants look at spreadsheets and wives look at faces. Okya's words are coming fast now, tumbling, a dam that has been holding for 6 months and is coming apart not in a rush but in the particular slow surrender of something that was never meant to hold this long. She found the records. She confronted Dassel. Not Gyuho, because she did not know Gyuho's role yet. Dassel. Because Dassel was the one who brought Gyuho into the inner circle 8 years ago, who vouched for him, who said he is brilliant, he is loyal, he will serve this family. Yuna trusted her sister. She gave the evidence to her sister, and that night, Okja says, and now her voice is a whisper because the walls in this house have ears, and the ears in this house have owners. That night, Yuna died. The police came. 4 days. Suicide. Case closed. Nobody asked how a woman who had just discovered evidence of massive financial fraud and had confronted her own sister about it chose, on the same night, to jump from a window. Okya has known for 6 months. She stayed silent because Gyuho holds paper on her grandson Taiwan, a 20-year-old university boy in Daejeon with a gambling debt that was purchased by the syndicate for the specific purpose of owning a 63-year-old housekeeper's silence. The debt is a leash. Okja is the dog. He would ruin the boy, Okja says. Expel him. Destroy his future. I chose my blood over hers. She is crying now, and the tears are real. Wanjiku can see that they are real, the specific salt of genuine guilt and not performance. I chose wrong. I know I chose wrong. But I chose, and I have lived with it for 6 months, and I cannot live with it anymore because that child in the next room is counting the days, and I know what he is counting, and he knows that I know because children see everything and forgive nothing. Wanjiku listens. She believes Okja. The guilt is too heavy to be manufactured, too specific, too ugly in its selfishness. This is not a confession designed to make the confessor look noble. This is a woman admitting she let another woman die because the price of speaking was her grandson's future, and she paid it, and the receipt is killing her. Wanjiku believes her. You believe her too. Then the door handle turns, slowly, the particular slowness of a small hand that has to reach up to grip the handle and pull down with body weight because the mechanism is designed for adult hands. The door opens. Seojin is standing in the hallway, barefoot, scarf pressed to his chest, his dark eyes wide in the green hallway light, ancient in a child's face. He looks at Wanjiku. He looks at Okja. Then he walks into the room, past Wanjiku, directly to Okja. He reaches up and takes the old woman's hand with both of his, small fingers wrapped around old knuckles. But his face is not soft. It is not the face of a child seeking comfort from a grandmother figure. It is not trust. It is not forgiveness. It is recognition. The flat, final, ancient look of a person who has been searching their memory for a face and has just found it. The look of a witness identifying a suspect in a lineup he has been running in his head for 53 nights. He is looking at Okja the way he looks at the study door, like he is seeing through the present moment into the one that created it. Like the woman sitting on this bed is not just a housekeeper who makes sesame-scented tea and folds laundry with surgical creases. She is a face from behind a curtain, a face from the night. Okja looks down at the boy holding her hand and her crying stops. Not because the grief is over, because something worse has replaced it. Recognition is a mirror, and the boy is holding one up, and what Okja sees in it is a truth that her confession did not include. The truth she told Wanjiku is real, but it is not complete. It happens in 72 hours, 3 days. That is how long it takes to dismantle a life that was already held together with tape and prayer. Day 1. Wanjiku receives a call from the immigration office in Mokdong. Her visa extension application has been flagged. Discrepancies in the submitted documents. Specifically, the employment verification letter contains a registration number that does not match the corporate registry, and the applicant's stated salary differs from the tax filing by a margin that suggests either fraud or incompetence, and the immigration officer on the phone does not seem interested in determining which. You have 72 hours to appear in person with corrected documentation, the officer says. Failure to appear will result in automatic status revocation. Wanjiku hangs up. She stares at the phone. The visa extension was supposed to go through Chanyeol's corporate office, through Gyuho. The registration number, the salary discrepancy, the specific nature of the errors, these are not mistakes. These are precision instruments. Someone filed this paperwork wrong on purpose, in ways designed to look like Wanjiku's fault, in ways that create a paper trail showing incompetence or dishonesty, in ways that give the immigration office a reason to revoke and give the Guk household a reason to let her go. Day 2. Gyuho requests a private meeting with Chanyeol. Wanjiku is not present, but she sees the aftermath. Chanyeol emerges from his office at 3 p.m. and does not speak to anyone for 4 hours. When Okja brings his dinner tray, he says one sentence, "Bring me Wanjiku's phone records." The phone records arrive by evening. They are not Wanjiku's real phone records. They are fabrications. 3 calls to a number registered to a freelance journalist who writes for a Seoul tabloid known for syndicate exposés. The calls are dated, timed, and detailed. 7 minutes, 12 minutes, 9 minutes. Long enough to transmit information. Specific enough to look intentional. Completely invented. The implication is surgical. Wanjiku has been selling information about Seojin, about the household, about the Guk syndicate. The cleaning woman from Nakuru is not what she seems. She is a plant, a spy, a threat. Day 3. Dassel presents the final piece. A psychiatrist's report, prepared by a doctor Dassel selected and Wanjiku has never met, recommending immediate residential treatment for Seojin. The language is clinical, compassionate, and devastating. The patient presents with selective mutism, disordered attachment patterns, and emerging dependency on a non-familial, non-professional caretaker whose presence is temporary and whose departure will trigger acute abandonment response. Recommendation: structured inpatient program with trained therapeutic staff in a controlled environment. 3 directions: immigration fraud, media betrayal, medical recommendation. Each one independently credible. Together they form a cage so elegant in its construction that Wanjiku can almost admire the architecture of it before she realizes it is closing around her. Chanyeol calls her to his office at 7 p.m. He is standing, not sitting. That tells her before his mouth opens. A seated man is a man considering options. A standing man is a man who has decided. Your services are no longer needed, Chanyeol says. He is not looking at her. He is looking at a point slightly to the left of her face, the way you look at something you are letting go of, because looking directly at it would require acknowledging the weight of what you are doing. You will be compensated for your remaining contract. A car will take you back to Gurodong tonight. Do not contact this household. The words are delivered the way Wanjiku imagines he delivers all his decisions, clean, final, without room for the kind of negotiation that might introduce doubt into a system that runs on certainty. He is a man who trusts systems because people have broken him, and the system, the fabricated phone records, the psychiatric report, the immigration flag, is telling him that Wanjiku is a threat, and so she must go. She does not argue. She does not cry. She does not explain or defend or beg, because she has been poor her entire life. And poor people learn early that powerful men do not reverse decisions made from behind desks, and the energy you spend on begging is energy stolen from surviving. She goes to her room, begins packing. It does not take long. Everything she owns fits in the black nylon crossbody bag she arrived with, minus the cleaning smock, which is in Seojin's room because it is his now and has been since the 42nd floor. She is folding her second shirt when she hears running, small feet, fast. The particular percussion of a barefoot child sprinting on hardwood, each footfall landing with the desperate energy of someone running not from, but toward. She hears Dasul's voice calling his name. Seojina, come back. And then a sound she has never heard in this house. A door closing hard. A lock turning. From the inside. The study. 2nd floor. The room where Yuna died. The room Seojin has never willingly entered. The room he reenacts every night from the safety of other rooms because the original room is the one place in this house where the memory is not a copy but the source. He has locked himself inside it. Staff cluster in the hallway. Oksha knocks. Dassel pleads through the wood, her voice cracking with something that could be genuine terror or the performance of it, and Wanjiku no longer knows which, and that uncertainty is the thing that might save her or destroy her. Chanyeol arrives. His hand goes flat on the door and he says his son's name once, low, the way you say a word that means more than itself. Seojin, open this door. Silence. The particular silence of a child who has chosen and will not be moved. A locksmith is called. The man arrives 45 minutes later, sweating, apologizing, fumbling with tools he probably doesn't use on doors owned by people like Guk Chanyeol. The lock gives. The door swings open. Seojin is on the floor. Not behind the curtain, not wedged in a corner or under the desk or in any of the hiding positions Wanjiku has mapped for 53 nights. He is in the center of the room, in the open, knees to chest, hands over ears, face down, but visible, completely, deliberately visible. He is sitting on the spot, the exact spot where the floor is a different shade, the 3-foot by 2-foot section of hardwood that was scrubbed until the wood lightened, where something organic soaked in and was cleaned out and left a ghost of its presence in the grain. He is sitting where his mother's body was, and he is not hiding. For the first time since the counting began, Seojin is not hiding. He is displaying. He chose the room everyone avoids. He chose the spot everyone pretends is the same color as the rest of the floor. He chose to plant himself in the center of the truth and dare the adults around him to keep pretending they don't see it. Chanyeol stands in the doorway. Behind him, docile with her hand over her mouth. Okja with her clasped hands and her trembling. Gyuho, who arrived without anyone noticing, standing at the back of the group with his glasses reflecting the hallway light and his face arranged in the specific blankness of a man who is watching a situation and calculating its cost per second. Wanjiku stands at the end of the corridor with her bag on her shoulder, expelled, terminated, 71 hours from deportation, watching through the bodies of people who outrank her in every conceivable way. Chanyeol does not reverse his decision, not with words, but he doesn't enter the room either. He doesn't order anyone to move the boy. He stands in the doorway, and something in the architecture of his certainty shifts, a crack in the foundation, the first structural failure in a system that has been running on grief and delegation for 6 months. He sits down, in the doorway, on the floor, 6 feet from his son. He doesn't reach for the boy, doesn't speak, just sits and waits. For the first time since Yuna died, Guk Chanyeol stops standing in doorways and actually enters the room. Wanjiku watches this happen from 15 feet away. Then she turns, walks downstairs, gets in the car. The driver is the same man who brought her to the estate on her first day. Mid-50s, quiet, forgettable in the way a plain wall is forgettable, the kind of face your eyes pass over without registering because there is nothing to grip. He opens the rear door for her, she gets in, he drives. They are 4 minutes from the estate, on the winding Pyeongchang-dong road that descends toward the city, when the driver speaks for the first time. The boy will be fine, he says. He says it to the windshield, not to Wanjiku. His tone is flat, not unkind, not kind either. It has the texture of a statement that has been said before, rehearsed, tested, deployed. Children forget, he says. Given enough time, they always forget. Wanjiku looks at his eyes in the rearview mirror. He meets her gaze for 1 second. 1. And in that second, she sees something that turns her entire body cold from the inside out. Because the sentence is not comfort. It is not the reassurance of a gentle man trying to ease a difficult moment. It is a thesis, a position, the stated belief of someone who has personal experience with the question of what children remember and what they don't. And this man, this forgettable wallpaper plane driver who has been in every scene of Wanjiku's time at the estate, who opened the car door on her first day and is closing it on her last, who moved through the background of this story like furniture with a pulse, this man knows something about children forgetting because he was involved in making one forget. Wanjiku sits in the back seat with her bag on her lap and her copper ring on her right pinky, and 61 days on a visa that someone broke on purpose, and she feels for the first time since she sat down on a cold marble floor and chose to stay, the full shape of what she is inside. The car descends toward Seoul. The city opens below them, 10 million lives stacked on top of each other, and somewhere behind her, in a room that smells like white jasmine and cleaned blood, a boy is sitting on the floor where his mother died, waiting for someone to understand what he has been saying with his body every single night for 53 nights. Wanjiku has been sent away, but she has not been finished, and the driver's sentence, "Children forget," is the wrongest thing anyone in this story has ever said, because this child has not forgotten a single second, and the proof is scratched into 53 surfaces in a house full of people who are trying very, very hard not to look. The Goshiwon room is 7 feet by 5 feet. Wanjiku knows this because she measured it with her forearm the day she moved in, a habit from Nakuru where her mother measured rooms before signing leases because landlords lie about square footage the way they lie about plumbing. 7 by 5, a bed that folds down from the wall, a shelf for her clothes, a shared bathroom down the hall, a window that faces another building's window, close enough that she could pass a cup of tea to the woman across the gap if either of them ever thought to try. She has been back for 31 hours, 59 days on a visa that someone poisoned from the inside, 17,001 in her account, which is enough for 4 days of convenience store kimbap, or 2 days of ramyun and a single subway fare. She sits on the bed with her back against the wall and her knees drawn up, and she thinks about Seojin on the study floor, positioned on the spot where his mother's body was, choosing the room that terrifies him most, because the alternative was a house without the only person who taught him the word for safe. She thinks about this until thinking becomes a physical thing, a pressure behind her eyes, a weight on her sternum that she recognizes from the day her mother died. The weight of being needed by someone you cannot reach. At 11 p.m., someone knocks on her door, not a Korean knock. Wonjiku has learned the difference. Korean knocks are precise, 2 taps, efficient, don't waste the other person's time. This knock is hesitant, 3 taps with a pause between each. The knocking pattern of a person who is not sure they have the right door and is not sure they should be here and is doing it anyway. Wonjiku opens the door. Dasul is standing in the hallway of a Gurodong Goshiwon wearing a camel coat that costs more than the building's monthly water bill, holding her bag against her body with both hands, looking at Wonjiku with an expression that contains so many things it takes a moment to sort them. Fear, exhaustion, relief at finding the door. And underneath all of it, a determination so fierce it has burned through every layer of composure Dasul has been wrapping herself in for 6 months. She is alone, no driver, no escort. She took a taxi, she will say later, from Pyeongchang-dong to Gurodong, a journey that crosses every economic border Seoul has to offer, and the taxi driver asked her twice if she was sure about the address. "I know who killed my sister," Dasul says. She says it standing in the doorway, before Wonjiku can invite her in, before pleasantries, before the cup of water that hospitality demands. "I have known for 4 months, and I need your help, because the person who did it is about to send my nephew to a place where no one will hear him even if he decides to scream." Wonjiku steps aside. Dasul enters. She sits on the edge of the bed because there is nowhere else to sit. And she starts talking the way people talk when the holding is finally over and the only thing left is the release. Everything Wonjiku suspected about Dasul is wrong, not partially wrong, completely, architecturally, foundationally wrong. The canceled therapy appointments were not suppression. They were protection. Dasul was terrified that a competent therapist would unlock Seojin's memories, that the boy would communicate what he saw, and that the information would reach Gyuho before it reached anyone who could act on it. She canceled the appointments to keep the boy's testimony sealed until she had enough evidence to open it safely. Every cancellation was a calculated risk. Every excuse was a firewall. The male voice in her room at 2 a.m. was not Gyuho. It was a private investigator named Seo Junho, hired from Busan, paid in cash, untraceable. Dasul has been running a parallel investigation for 4 months, from inside the house, under the gaze of Okja and Gyuho, and a surveillance network she didn't fully understand but knew existed. She collected financial records. She tracked Gyuho's shell companies through the foundation's own paperwork, documents she had access to because nobody thought the grieving sister was paying attention, and she has something Wonjiku doesn't have, something Yuna gave her 3 days before she died. Dasul reaches into her bag. Then she stops. Her hand comes out empty. "It was in the jade pendant," Dasul says. "The one I wear. Yuna gave it to me. She said, 'If anything happens to me, don't open this until you're ready to burn everything down.'" Inside the pendant, in a hollow compartment behind the jade backing, was a micro SD card. Yuna's insurance policy. An audio recording she made on her phone the night she confronted Gyuho. The recording catches voices, a confrontation, then a struggle, then a scream, then a window opening. Dasul looks at Wonjiku. It catches 2 voices clearly. One is Gyuho. He says, "Hold her arms, hold her." The second voice is older, female. Closer to the phone, maybe because she was closer to Yuna. Maybe because she was the one Yuna trusted enough to let stand near her in a room that was about to become a crime scene. The voice says 2 words. "Forgive me, child." Okya. The word lands in the Goshiwon like a stone thrown through a window. Everything Wonjiku believed about the old woman, the trembling confession, the tears, the guilt that seemed too heavy to be manufactured, all of it is true. The guilt is real. The trembling is real. But the confession was not a release. It was reconnaissance. Okja came to Wonjiku's room at 4 a.m. not to unburden herself, but to determine how much Wonjiku knew, so she could report it back to the man whose instructions she has been following for 6 months. Okja opened the study door for Gyuho the night Yuna died. She held the arms. She said forgive me to the woman she had served for 21 years. And then she helped clean the floor, and she closed the curtain, and she did not know that behind it, wedged in a gap barely wide enough for his small body, a boy was watching. But the pendant, Wanjiku says. Where is it now? Dasel's face does something complicated, a mixture of pride and terror and the particular awe that comes from being outsmarted by a child. Seojin took it, she says, 2 weeks ago, while I was sleeping. He unclasped it from my neck without waking me, and he hid it. Where? In the kitchen pantry, behind the shelf where you keep the chai spices. The words arrive like a detonation in slow motion. The 6-year-old boy who cannot speak, who communicates through hiding positions and Kikuyu words and measuring spoons, stole the single most important piece of evidence in this story and placed it in the one location in the house that is associated with safety. The chai shelf. Wanjiku's shelf. The shelf where cardamom and cinnamon and cloves are stored in small glass jars. The shelf that smells like Nakuru. The shelf that is Seojin's version of a locked safe because it belongs to the only person he trusts completely. He is not just a witness. He has been building a case, collecting evidence the only way a 6-year-old can, by taking things and putting them where they are protected. By being so quiet and so overlooked and so underestimated that a woman who sleeps in the same house didn't feel him unclasp a necklace from her throat. But the pendant is in the estate, and Seojin is in the estate, and so is Okja, and so is Gyuho, and so is the quiet driver who told Wanjiku that children forget, and if any of them realize the pendant is missing, and if any of them realize the boy is the one who took it, then the evidence and the witness are in the same building with the people who have already killed once. Dasel's phone rings. She answers. Her face goes white. Security reports Seojin has left the estate, she says. Cameras show him going through the garden gate at 1:12 a.m. He is heading south, toward Gangnam, toward Guk Tower, the 42nd floor, the only other place in the city where a barefoot boy with a dead woman's scarf and a stolen pendant felt safe enough to close his eyes. Wanjiku is already standing, already reaching for her bag, already doing the math that has nothing to do with numbers and everything to do with the weight of a child's trust and the distance between a Goshiwon in Gurodong and a tower in Gangnam at 1 a.m. If Gyuho knows the boy is gone, she says, and if he knows the pendant is gone, then that building is not a safe place tonight. It is a closed room. They move. Wanjiku's cleaning crew keycard is in the bottom of her bag, under her wallet and the folded green headscarf and a tube of shea butter she bought at the African market in Itaewon 3 months ago. She hasn't used the card since she left the tower. Madame Jian was supposed to deactivate it. She didn't. Whether this was negligence or intention, Wanjiku will never know, but the card works when she presses it against the reader at the loading dock at 2:47 a.m. The magnetic strip engages, the door clicks open, some doors close behind you, some doors open ahead of you, and some doors, the important ones, were left unlocked by a woman with a red lanyard and 19 years of guilt who decided, at the end of it, to be useful one more time. Wanjiku and Dasel take the service elevator, the one the cleaning crew uses, the one that smells like pine disinfectant and bleach and the particular staleness of a space that exists for people who are not supposed to be seen. Wanjiku presses 42, the elevator climbs, neither of them speaks. There is nothing to say that the silence does not already contain. 2 women in an elevator at 2:49 a.m., one from Nakuru and one from Pyeongchang-dong, separated by everything the world uses to separate people and connected by a boy who communicates in hiding positions and Kikuyu words and stolen evidence. The doors open. The 42nd floor is dark, not the emergency light dark of a powered-down office, the deliberate dark of a room where someone has turned off every light. The cold is there again, the same aggressive chill from the first night, and Wanjiku feels it through her jacket like a memory made of temperature. She hums. 3 notes. The Kikuyu lullaby. The sound enters the dark room and finds the corners and fills them. From under the conference table, a small sound, not a word, a breath. The breath of a child who has been holding air in his lungs, waiting, and has just heard the sound that means release. Seojin is in his spot, the exact spot, under the table, curled in the position, knees to chest, but his hands are not over his ears. His right hand is clutching the jade pendant, the chain wrapped around his fingers, the green stone pressing into his palm. His left hand is holding the cream scarf. He is awake. He has been awake this whole time, lying here in the dark on the cold floor, waiting. Not for rescue, not for Seoul, for Wanjiku. Because she is the only person who knows what his hiding means, and tonight he is hiding here for the last time. Not to reenact, to finish. He crawls out from under the table, stands, walks to Wanjiku, and he places the jade pendant in her hand. It is warm from his grip. She can feel the weight of the micro SD card behind the jade backing, the invisible cargo that a dead woman planted inside a piece of jewelry and gave to her sister, and that a 6-year-old boy stole in the night and hid in a shelf that smelled like cardamom, because cardamom meant safe, and safe meant Wanjiku, and Wanjiku meant someone would finally listen. She gives the pendant to Dassel. Dassel holds it against her chest for 3 seconds, the briefest private mourning, then opens her phone and calls Chanyol. The call lasts 9 seconds. She says, "Your son is at the tower. Come now. Bring no one you trust because you have been trusting the wrong people." Then she hangs up. But the building's access system has already registered Wanjiku's keycard, logged it, flagged it, sent an automated notification to the office that monitors after-hours access, the office that belongs to Gyuho. 9 minutes later, the elevator dings. Gyuho's men arrive first. 2 of them. They step onto the 42nd floor with the professional calm of people who do this kind of work regularly. They see Wanjiku, they see Dasul, they see the boy. One of them speaks into a phone. 4 minutes after that, the elevator opens again. Chanyol. He fills the 42nd floor the way he fills every room, not with volume but with gravity. Behind him, his personal security, 4 men who move like extensions of his body. And beside him, because Gyuho intercepted the information and positioned himself before Chanyol could think clearly, is Gyuho. And behind Gyuho, brought along because the estate household travels as a unit during emergencies, because no one questioned her presence, because she has been invisible in the right way for 21 years, is Bae Okja. And standing near the elevator, because someone needed to drive, because he is always the one who drives, because he has been in the background of every single scene in this story, is the driver, Yoon Tae-shik. Gyuho speaks first. He is calm. He is always calm. His voice is the temperature of a room in which nothing has gone wrong. "They took him," Gyuho says. "The Kenyan woman and your sister-in-law. They have been coordinating. The phone records I showed you were just the beginning. She was never a cleaner, Chanyol. Look at who she is standing next to. Look at who has your son." Chanyol looks. He sees Wanjiku holding Seojin. He sees Dassel beside her. He sees the scene exactly as Gyuho has framed it. 2 women, one he fired and one he's been told to suspect, with his son at 3 a.m. on a restricted floor. The security detail raises weapons, not dramatically, efficiently, the way professionals do. Aimed at Wanjiku because she is the one holding the child, and she is the one who does not belong, and she has always been the one who does not belong. And between the guns and the men and the accusations and the architecture of a lie that has been building for 6 months, Seojin stands. He looks at his father. He looks at the weapons pointed at the woman whose name badge he memorized from a cleaning smock on the 42nd floor 54 nights ago. He looks at the distance between them, 8 feet, the length of a decision. Gyuho Ajusi told him 4 months ago in the hallway outside his bedroom, in the voice adults use when they are telling children something the children must carry alone. "If you tell Appa what you saw, the same thing will happen to Appa. Your Iyama talked. Look what happened. If you talk, Appa dies too." For 54 nights, Seojin's silence has been a shield, not for himself, for his father. He stopped speaking to keep Chanyol alive. Every mute day, every hidden night, every tally mark scratched into wood was a 6-year-old paying the ransom for his father's life in the only currency he had, quiet, obedience. The complete, devastating surrender of his own voice. But now there are guns aimed at Wanjiku, and if he stays silent, the woman who sat on a cold floor and hummed until dawn will be taken away, and this time there will be no coming back. Silence was supposed to save his father. Silence is about to destroy the person who saved him. Seojin does not look at Gyuho. He looks past his father's shoulder, at Okja, who is standing at the back of the group, arranged in the posture of a worried grandmother, her face soft, her hands clasped, her performance so immaculate that every person in this room except two believes she is exactly what she appears to be. Seojin points at her. Then he covers his ears with both hands. The gesture, the one from every hiding position, the one that means, I heard something. I am telling you what I heard. Then he opens his mouth. Harabeoji Ajuma, he says. Grandfather's Ajuma. The old woman who serves the house. His voice is small and clear and completely steady. It has been unused for 4 months, and it comes out without rust or hesitation, the way a tool that has been kept clean in darkness comes out when you finally need it. Then he says one word in Kikuyu, aimed not at the room but at Wanjiku, Thahu, and the word means, I am safe now. It is time. You can translate what comes next because what comes next is for everyone. And then Guk Seojin, 6 years old, 54 nights of silence, speaks in Korean. Full sentences. Complete, devastating, chronological testimony delivered in the present tense, because for him it has always been present tense. It has never stopped happening. It plays every night between 1 and 3 a.m. behind his eyes and in his bones. Yama told me to hide. She said, behind the curtain, Seojin don't come out. I hid. I was scared. Harabeoji Ajuma opened the door. She was crying. The man with the glasses came in behind her. He told Iyama, this is what happens. He grabbed her. Harabeoji Ajuma held her arms. Iyama screamed. The window was already open. They pushed her. Harabeoji Ajuma said, forgive me, child. Forgive me. And then Iyama was gone. The room is silent. Not the silence of shock, because shock is a sound, a frequency. This is the silence of detonation. The moment after the blast, when the air itself has been displaced and there is nothing left to carry sound. Chanyeol turns to Okja, the grandmother, the housekeeper of 21 years, the woman who folded his laundry and made his tea and told Wanjiku in the kitchen, casually, between pillowcases, that his wife jumped from a window. Her face is gone. The mask, the warm lines, the kind eyes, all of it has collapsed inward, like a building that has lost its frame. She is just an old woman now, just a small, shaking, caught woman standing in the wreckage of a performance she maintained for 6 months with nothing left between her and the truth except the 8 feet of marble floor and a 6-year-old boy who remembered everything. But Seojin is not done. He says one more sentence, and this sentence is the one that takes the floor out from under every person in this room, including the audience. The man who drives the car, Seojin says. He was there too. He held the window open. I saw his hands. Every head turns, slowly, to the elevator, where Yoon Tae-shik is standing. The driver, mid-50s, quiet, forgettable, the man who told Wanjiku children forget. His face does something it has never done in this story. It moves. The blankness cracks, and beneath it is not evil, not malice, not the face of a villain. It is the face of a man who has been standing still for 6 months, waiting for this exact moment, with the resignation of someone who knew it would come and decided long ago that when it did, he would run. He bolts for the stairwell. Chanyeol doesn't give an order. He doesn't need to. His men move the way water moves when a dam breaks, following the path of least resistance toward the only exit the driver has. The stairwell door opens and closes, and the sound of feet on concrete echoes through the shaft, descending, a man running down 42 flights from the truth. Wanjiku holds Seojin. He is trembling. The speaking has cost him everything he had. His body is doing what bodies do when they release something they've been holding too long, shaking, the uncontrollable vibration of muscle and nerve, and 4 months of compressed silence finally expelled. She wraps him in her arms. Not her cleaning smock, not a borrowed blanket, her arms, and she says the only word that matters. Thahu. They play the recording at 3:47 a.m. on the 42nd floor of Guk Tower. Dassel opens the pendant's backing with her thumbnail and removes the micro SD card and inserts it into a phone, and the dead woman's voice enters the room like a door opening into a place none of them can close again. Yuna's voice is clear, steady, the voice of a woman who knows she is about to do something dangerous and has decided that the recording is more important than the fear. She names the shell companies. She lists the amounts. She describes the fund transfers with the precision of someone who spent weeks learning how to read financial documents she was never supposed to see. And then the door opens, and the recording captures what the room remembers. Voices, yuhos, cold, instructional, okyas, breaking, the struggle, a scream that is cut short, the sound of a window that was already open because someone planned this before they entered the room. And then Okja's voice, close to the phone, close enough to be standing over the woman she is helping to kill, saying the words that will follow her into whatever comes next. "Forgive me, child. Forgive me." Then silence. The recording ends. Yuna's phone must have fallen, or been found, or simply run out of the capacity to witness. Chanyeol listens to the entire recording standing. He does not sit. He does not lean against a wall. He stands in the center of the 42nd floor, the building he built, the empire he runs, the system he trusted because trusting people had become impossible after the one person he trusted most was taken from him by the people he trusted second most. He stands and he listens to his wife's voice, documenting her own murder, with the composure of a woman who loved a man who needed evidence because instinct had never been enough for him. When the recording ends, Chanyeol does not speak for a long time. The room waits. Dasal waits. Wanjiku waits. Seojin, wrapped in Wanjiku's arms, waits. The security team waits. Even the city outside the glass wall seems to hold its breath, the Gangnam skyline frozen in the pre-dawn stillness. Then Daseul steps forward. She puts her hand on Chanyeol's arm. She does not say "I told you so" because she is not that kind of woman, and because the victory here is made of ash and nobody wins. She made the recording because she knew, Daseul says. She knew you would need proof. Because you are the kind of man who trusts evidence over instinct. She looks at the floor. She knew you, Chanyeol, even at the end. Gyuho is detained by Chanyeol's men in a ground-floor office. His face behind the thin glasses is the face of a man running final calculations on a spreadsheet that no longer balances. Okya is seated in a chair near the elevator, her hands clasped in her lap, the way they have always been clasped, the Buddhist bead bracelet pressing against her wrist, her eyes fixed on a point in the middle distance where none of this is happening. The driver is caught in the stairwell between the 14th and 13th floors by two men who are faster and younger and who do not need to be told why speed matters. Madame John arrives at 4:15 a.m. She walks in carrying a box, the same kind of box she used for her fake cleaning supply delivery, except this one contains 19 years of records, access logs, building camera backups burned to disks, photocopied keycard entries, entry and exit timestamps that were edited in the official system, but preserved in the copy she kept in a locked drawer in her goshiwon, because she was not a brave woman, but she was a thorough one. She sets the box on the conference table, next to the child's shoe that is still sitting there, scuffed at the toe, navy blue, waiting. The evidence assembles itself the way evidence does when enough pieces finally enter the same room. The 4 access cards from the night Yuna died, the edited logs versus the originals, the financial trail through Singapore and the Philippines, the audio recording, the testimony of a 6-year-old witness, the tally marks scratched into 54 surfaces in a house where 54 nights of evidence were hiding in plain sight, in the wood of closets and the undersides of tables and the back of a headboard, scratched by a child's fingernail, counted backward, waiting. It will take months to prosecute. It takes minutes to decide. Chanyeol does not watch the detention. He does not oversee the evidence collection. He does not make the calls that his position requires him to make, the calls to lawyers and prosecutors and the internal machinery of an empire that has just lost 3 of its longest-standing members. He delegates all of it. For once in his life, he delegates the system and keeps the person. He sits down on the floor, the cold marble of the 42nd floor, across from his son. At the boy's level, the way Wanjiku sat down 54 nights ago, the way you sit when you are telling someone with your body that you are willing to be small. "I didn't listen," Chanyeol says. "You were telling me every night. Every time you hid, you were showing me. Every time you put your hands over your ears, you were saying, 'I heard something,' and I didn't listen. I stood in doorways. I watched from the wrong distance. I delegated you to people I should never have trusted because trusting people felt like something that would kill me, and I didn't realize that not trusting you was killing you." He stops, swallows, continues. "I am sorry, Seojina. I am sorry that my grief made me blind and my blindness made you carry this alone." Seojin sits across from his father. He does not flinch. For the first time since the night behind the curtain, his body does not brace at his father's proximity. He is still trembling from the speaking, but the trembling is not fear. It is release. It is the vibration of a bridge after the weight has been lifted, the structure finding its new shape. "I was scared," Seojin says. His voice is quiet and raw and sounds exactly like what it is. A 6-year-old voice that has been locked in a chest for 4 months and is now being used for the first time on its own terms. Gyuho Ajusi said if I told you, you would die too. He said Iyama talked and look what happened. He said if I opened my mouth, the same thing would happen to Appa. I stayed quiet to keep you alive. The sentence hangs in the air between them. A 6-year-old boy stayed silent for 148 days because he believed his voice was a weapon that would kill his father. He carried the weight of a grown man's life on a child's closed mouth. He watched his mother murdered and he told no one because telling was the thing that killed her, and he would not let it kill the only parent he had left. Chanyol does not reach for his son. He places both hands on the marble floor, palms up. Open, empty, not grabbing, not pulling, not using the hands that made Seojin flinch when they reached too fast for a face that wasn't ready. Just offering. Hands on cold marble, the same marble where Wanjiku sat and hummed and stayed until morning. Seojin looks at the hands. He looks up at Wanjiku, standing 10 feet away, holding her crossbody bag and her copper ring and her 61 remaining days. She nods. One nod. Small. The nod of a woman who has nothing left to give except permission. "Thahu," she mouths. "You are safe now. This is real." Seojin crawls forward, puts his hands in his father's hands, and Chanyol closes his fingers around his son's with the careful, terrified tenderness of a man holding something that he broke and is allowed, impossibly, to hold again. The room is quiet, not the silence of detonation, the silence of something beginning, the silence of a structure that has been demolished to its foundation and is now, in the pre-dawn cold of a building that doesn't exist on any directory, starting to figure out what gets rebuilt and what stays rubble. Wanjiku watches from across the room. She picks up her bag, adjusts the strap, begins to walk toward the elevator because this is the part where she leaves. This is what cleaning women do. They clean, they go, they become the surface again. Ugu. The word comes from across the room. Small, clear. Kikuyu. Ugu. Here. Come here. Stay here. Be here. Seojin is looking at her. His hands are still in his father's, but his eyes are on Wanjiku. And the word he has spoken is not Korean. It is the language they built together in stolen hours between midnight and dawn. The language that no one in this room speaks except the two of them. The language that a cleaning woman from Nakuru taught a mute boy from Seoul because they needed a code, and they made one out of the sounds of a country he has never visited, and a grandmother he never met, and a lullaby that was old before either of them was born. Chanyo looks at Wanjiku. "Your visa," he says. She looks at him. "I have 61 days. Someone in your organization filed it wrong on purpose. I will fix it." "Legally," Wanjiku says. And the word is not a question. It is a condition. She has been poor her entire life, and she has never confused a gift with a contract. And the difference between a man who offers a visa and a man who offers a leash is the paperwork. "Legally," he says. She does not move. She is not done. "Your son does not need a caretaker," she says. "He needs his father. Every night. On the floor if that is where he needs you. You do not get to hire someone to do the work of being present. That is not a job you can fill. That is just you, showing up, sitting down, staying. Do you understand?" The most feared man in Seoul is sitting on a marble floor with a 6-year-old's hands in his, and a Kenyan cleaning woman is standing above him, telling him how to be a father, and he does not interrupt because she is right, and because he is, maybe for the first time in 22 years of running an empire, listening. "Then what are you?" he asks. "I am the woman who stayed until morning," Wanjiku says. "What happens after morning is up to you." She sets her bag down. Seojin looks at her. His grip on his father's hands has not loosened, but his body has turned toward her the way plants turn toward light, an involuntary orientation, the directional instinct of a living thing that knows where warmth is. "Thahu," he says. Not a question this time, not the whispered plea from the elevator, not the desperate signal from the 42nd floor at 2 a.m. with men's footsteps echoing behind them. This time it is a statement, a declaration, the word for safe, spoken by a boy who has finally stopped hiding because the people he needs are in the same room and neither of them is leaving. Thahu. Wanjiku sits down, on the floor, on the cold marble. The same marble from the first night, from the night she found a barefoot boy under a table and made the most dangerous decision of her life, which was not to fight or to run, but simply to stay. She sits. Chanyol sits. Seojin sits between them. 3 people on a cold floor, a boy who spoke. A father who listened, a woman who was never supposed to be on this floor in the first place. And outside the glass walls of the 42nd floor, Seoul begins its slow ignition into dawn, the city that never fully commits to darkness finally, reluctantly, letting the light in. But here's the thing that nobody in that room knows yet. In the weeks that follow, as the prosecutors build their case and the evidence fills rooms and the names of the guilty become the kind of names that make newspaper editors check their legal departments, the investigation will uncover a layer beneath the layer. Gyuho's embezzlement was not freelance. The shell companies were not his design. The money was routed through a network that predates his involvement by nearly a decade, funded and directed by a rival syndicate that has been dismantling Gukchanyol's empire from the inside the way termites dismantle a house, quietly, structurally, one load-bearing member at a time. Okja, Gyuho, the driver, they were not the root, they were branches. And the person who planted the tree has never set foot in Guk Tower, has never met Chanyol, and knows everything about him, because the best way to destroy a man is not to attack him from the outside. It is to become his foundation and then dissolve. That story is next. And the boy who learned to say safe in a language from the other side of the world, he is going to need that word again, because safe is not a place you arrive at. It is a thing you build and rebuild and defend and sometimes lose and sometimes find again in the most unlikely rooms, on the coldest floors, in the arms of the most unexpected people. Besties, that is the story of a cleaning woman who found a sleeping child on a restricted floor at midnight and made a decision that would crack open an empire and save a boy's voice and teach the most powerful man in Seoul that presence is not a service you can outsource. If this story reached you, if it moved something in you that you didn't expect, then subscribe right now. Because next week, I am bringing you a story that will take everything you think you understand about loyalty and family and the things we bury to survive, and it will turn it inside out and show you what is underneath. And what is underneath, besties, is always the truth. It just takes the right person to sit down on the cold floor and wait for it. I will see you in the next one.